So we've looked at the church's online activities conceptually. We've looked at how a church should be considering the consumption of online material. And now I'd like to look at how a church should think about producing online material. We have to remember that we have to do everything as unto the Lord. No matter what activity we as Christians are engaged in, ought to be giving our very best effort. The situation that we find ourselves in means that a number of churches have had to re-examine their online presence, and a number of churches have decided to start producing online content, and there's nothing wrong with that. It does, however, mean that there's a huge volume of online content being produced by churches in a relatively short space of time. Quantity and quality are not always the same thing. When we are thinking about online content, it is very important that we understand who it is that we're trying to talk to. In a church situation, you can have a variety of people listening to a 45-minute message. And that gives you time to address different groups in different ways. We cannot take what we do in a church and transpose that directly online and expect it to work the same way. It doesn't. We really need to know who it is that we're talking to. Are they saved? Are they unsaved? Have they experience in Christian things? Are they new Christians? Are they experienced Christians? Tailor our style, our content for those people. You'll find that when watching online content that the world has produced, there are certain demographics that consume videos in different ways. I'll be primarily focusing on video production during this video. If you were to go onto YouTube today, you'd find that YouTube is very clever at trying to guess what content you might be interested in and showing you more of that type of content. You'll find that different age groups and different interest levels will consume different types of videos. If you are particularly interested in history, you might be willing to listen to a 45-minute or hour-long video on a very specific topic. However, if you're somebody who's just a general viewer and hasn't any great interest in history, it's unlikely that you're going to click on a video that says it has an hour-long runtime. You're more likely to click on a video that's only 5-10 minutes perhaps. And so when it comes to gospel videos, it would be my suggestion that short videos between 5 and 10 minutes long, 15 minutes at a push, would be acceptable. It's unlikely that we're going to have people willing to listen for half an hour, 45 minutes when they don't have any experience watching Christian media. It's important then to understand that if people are only willing to listen to videos for a short period of time, that we say what we're going to say it succinctly and make the point. It's important then that we understand who it is that we're trying to reach with our message and tailor the style for that person. The way that I would produce a video for consumption by a 40-year Christian is not the same way I would produce a video for a 15-year-old unsaved person. So we must look at the styles that they are used to consuming and produce content that is going to be appealing to them on that level. The message that we give, the gospel message, would be the same. The encouragement, the teaching would be the same, but the style doesn't necessarily have to be. It is very easy for us to, in a church setting, to swap between teaching and gospel. That is not really acceptable in a video. Are we producing a gospel video? Are we producing a ministry video? Is it for teaching or is it for encouragement? The style that you use will alter depending on which of these you're looking to do. There are a number of different styles of videos that we could use. We could have it narration over a pictorial story. We could make it as an interview where one person asks questions and the other one responds to it. We could have it as this is, as a talking head where I'm addressing you directly through the camera as if you're sitting in the room with me. We could produce a video that was like a lecture, standing at the front of a room and explaining concepts. We could produce it as a documentary. None of these ways are better or worse generally, but there are ones that are more or less appropriate in certain situations. The message that you're trying to get across, the people that you're trying to get the message across to, will invariably dictate the style that you use. The clothing that you wear, whether it be casual or smart, will tell your audience on a subconscious level about what you're trying to achieve. And again, there is no right or wrong answer, but it does need to be considered. Why am I doing this? Why am I including something in the background? Why am I not? Why am I inside? Why am I outside? Why am I in a church? Why am I in my own living room? Why am I in my study? Why is the camera set up the way it is? Why am I only showing part of my body as opposed to the whole of my body? Why am I adding in graphics? Why am I adding in music? Why am I doing all these things? There must be a reason behind it, not simply because we can. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the technical things that you can be thinking about before producing a video. First of all, we need to be thinking about the equipment that we're using. What camera do we have? What microphones do we have? What lighting are we going to use? What editing software do we have in order to produce these videos? Now, if you're simply producing a talking head for your church to produce content only for them, there's nothing particularly wrong with using a headphone microphone and a phone camera or a cheap digital camera. Nothing wrong with that. However, if you're thinking about producing content for the wider society, they have an expectation in these things. If you wish more information on cameras and microphones, lighting and editing, feel free to contact me and I shall do my best to give advice on these things. It's too big a subject to go into in this particular video. But just a few things to think about. First of all, sound quality. Hopefully you're able to hear me clearly. There's a richness to the sound because I'm using an external microphone, not the one built into the camera. If I was using the built-in camera, you would hear far more of the background noise and you find it far harder to hear what I'm saying because it's not directed at me. It's not designed to pick up me and me alone. It'll pick up the wind noise. It'll pick up the ambient reverberant noise in the room. So that's something to consider. You'll notice that you can see me. My face is illuminated. There are different ways of doing that, and there are some fantastic online resources on YouTube to teach you how to light a subject in order to produce what you're looking for, and the technical ways of doing that. But the key point is you should be able to see the detail of somebody's face. The key point in lighting is you should be able to see the person's face clearly. And it should not be either too dark or so bright that it washes out. The frame that you use, whether that is showing, as I am, quite a close-up shot, or whether you're showing more of the person, that's going to be a decision you have to make. The set that you're speaking in, that could be something as simple as this, where I'm simply sitting in a living room, or it could be far more deliberate. It could be far more organized. And if that is what you're choosing to send the message that you intend to send, to set the scene that you're intending to set, again, that's totally fine, but it needs to be a decision. how you edit it together. You'll find that a lot of YouTube production for younger people now has what's called a jump cut, where it swaps from one shot to another, but still of the same person, just a different framing. It could be that you intend to have animation or text scrolling across the screen. Why are you doing that? Are you putting text on the screen so that people can read along so they don't have to look up their Bible while you're reading? Or is it simply that you're going to add in the location of the verse so that people can look it up at their leisure at a future date? Are you reading the passages, or are you simply referring to the passages and paraphrasing? What is the story that you're intending to tell, and how are you best to tell that? So, to summarize, quality and quantity are not the same thing. We should know who it is that we're talking to and produce content in a style that is worthwhile for that individual. We need to consider the length of what we're talking about. We need to think about the technical aspects. We need to think about the style that we're producing. We need to think about the equipment that we're going to use. What equipment do we have access to, and is it appropriate for what we're trying to achieve, or do we need to alter our style for the equipment that we have? Just remember, there is not a one size fits all, nor are we simply trying to recreate what we have in the church, particularly when we're thinking about gospel outreach.